The U.S. has intensified its bombing of Iran as retaliation after losing soldiers in Jordan, which is proof of the escalating conflict. But unfortunately, multiple civilian facilities were hit, including bridges, airports, and water supplies. Because of this, Iran became even more desperate and wasted no time in intensifying their attacks on neighboring countries like Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan, countries that have connections with America. What really is the endgame, or what does the U.S. want to achieve with the escalation of this war? Is there really no hope left for the peace deal to be restored? And is this the war that will finally bring down the regime ruling Iran? That's what we'll discuss today, only here on Mr. Good Vibe Shorts. Mr. Good Vibe Shorts. Yeah. 2 American soldiers were killed while another is missing after a massive attack by Iran using ballistic missiles and drones at the Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Azraq, Jordan. The U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, confirmed that 4 more service members were rushed to hospitals in Jordan. However, they were later allowed to leave, and the other missing soldier was also found. Because of this, the United States intensified its bombing even more. In the latest operation, the U.S. Central Command said it used fighter aircraft, aerial drones, and warships to target Iran's military infrastructure, underground weapons storage, and maritime capabilities. This means it's no longer just a simple retaliation. It has become a systematic operation to blind, cut off supplies, and gradually remove Iran's ability to fight. But what's concerning is that it's no longer just military targets that are involved. According to reports from Iran, 6 bridges, a railway station, a port control tower, and the Iran Shah airport were hit. There were also strikes around Bandar Abbas, Iran's most important commercial port, and in Chabahar on the Gulf of Oman. At first glance, these may seem like ordinary infrastructure, but in the eyes of the military, a bridge is a route for soldiers and weapons. An airport can be used for logistics, and the railway can provide support. When ammunition, fuel, and reinforcements are transported, if these routes are destroyed, Iran is forced to use slower, longer, and more easily tracked alternative routes. But according to Iran, the United States may have gone too far after U.S. airstrikes hit a desalination plant in the coastal village of Bunji in Hormuzgan province. According to local officials, the water pumps and critical electrical equipment at the Jaffa facility were completely destroyed. This caused around 10,000 civilians from 20 towns to lose access to drinking water. This is even more dangerous because Iran has long been experiencing a severe water crisis. Their reservoirs are running dry, their dams are drying up, and they are experiencing simultaneous power and water outages because of the extreme heat. In an instant, what was once a problem of climate and water shortage has become a direct humanitarian emergency because of the war. But it's very important to know that it has not yet been confirmed that America deliberately cut off water to civilians. The loss of supply to thousands of people in the camp is based on the statement of an Iranian provincial official. There is still no official confirmation or public statement from the U.S. Central Command admitting that the Bunji desalination plant itself was the planned target or explaining why it was hit. However, according to experts, the intensifying attacks are just a sign that America's main goal is to dismantle the entire system behind the Iranian military, from its eyes and ears to the supply lines that carry its supplies. And America is sending an even bigger message after repeatedly firing at and disrupting ships passing through Hormuz, showing that Iran cannot use the Strait of Hormuz as a bargaining chip to threaten the whole world. But as more bridges, airports, electricity, and communication lines are hit, the line between military targets and the daily lives of civilians becomes increasingly blurred. Iranian authorities reported that there were deaths and injuries in the new airstrikes. However, not all of the numbers have been independently verified. What is clear is that when a bridge collapses, it's not just military supplies that can't get through, but also ambulances, food deliveries, and families who want to evacuate. And all of this may just be preparations by the United States. In military strategy, you first destroy the radar, air defense, logistics, and communications before targeting the larger and more protected facilities. So the bigger question now is the United States clearing the way for a heavier attack in the coming days? The next airstrikes are similar to what are called shaping operations. They first weaken the enemy's ability to see, communicate, move weapons, and defend important facilities. When these systems are cut off, it's easier to approach and bomb deeper and more protected targets with less risk to American planes and soldiers. Suspicions grew stronger that there would be another phase after it was reported that the White House is studying new military options against Iran, including broader attacks on strategic infrastructure and underground facilities. America also sent additional air refueling aircraft to the region. These tankers are important because they can keep fighter jets and bombers in the air longer and help them reach targets far from the coast. However, the deployment may also just be a precaution to support the current operation. This is not automatically proof that a massive offensive is already planned. But even though there has been no official announcement yet about the next phase of America's operation against Iran, the current campaign is already having a heavy impact on civilians, and that is what's saddening. The Iranian Energy Ministry is already urging residents to conserve electricity and limit air conditioning use because the country's power system is struggling while its provinces are experiencing extreme heat. When the grid weakens, it's not just the lights that go out. Food and medicine refrigeration can stop, water pumps can lose power, and patients who rely on oxygen machines, dialysis equipment, and other medical devices can be put at risk. There's also a problem with communication. According to officials in Hormuzgan, 116 telecommunications towers lost service, disrupting mobile service, internet, and landline connections in some areas. But in the midst of the bombings, the loss of communication can be just as dangerous as the explosions. Families can't call for an ambulance. It's impossible to determine which route is safe, and residents aren't immediately warned when a new strike is coming. At the same time, the destruction of transport and energy networks slows down the arrival of food, fuel, medicine, rescue personnel, and repair crews. According to Iranian authorities, dozens of people have died, and hundreds have been injured in the current wave, although these numbers still need to be independently confirmed. And while America is gradually squeezing Iran's ability to fight, they are preparing their own response. Because if America hits its vital systems, they are also ready to target the facilities that sustain America's allies in the Gulf region. And Iran's response came quickly. Instead of just confronting America's planes, they expanded the fight to countries with an American military presence. Missile and drone attacks were then reported in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Jordan. Iran's message was clear. If America uses Gulf facilities to support its campaign, the countries hosting them will not be spared. The most dangerous incident happened in Kuwait, where the Iranian attack hit a power and water desalination plant. A fire broke out, and many power generation units went out of operation. Another important oil facility was hit, and there were injuries. This was not a simple warning shot into the air. The systems that provide water and electricity to the entire population are now directly at risk. And this is where the new direction of the war becomes frightening. Almost 90% of Kuwait's drinking water comes from desalination. In Qatar, almost the entire fresh water supply depends on this process. Oman and Saudi Arabia also have a very high dependency. Because a large part of the Gulf is desert, natural rivers or groundwater cannot support the millions of residents. The plants on the coast draw seawater to remove the salt and send the clean water to the cities. If the plants or power stations operating here are hit, the entire process could stop. And in a region that experiences extremely high temperatures, just a few days of widespread water disruption could already become a very serious humanitarian emergency. In Qatar, Iran said its targets were military radar systems and American aircraft. While Doha reported that incoming missiles were intercepted, Even though Qatar is known as a mediator in peace talks, Iran still targeted it because the largest American airbase in the region is located there. In Jordan, the IRGC said it hit fighter shelters and the aircraft parking area at Al-Azraq. Iran even claimed that some American aircraft were destroyed, but there is no independent confirmation yet and no immediate confirmation from the U.S. on the extent of the damage. Aside from the 2 confirmed American soldiers who died, Jordan also intercepted missiles and drones that entered its airspace. But why, despite this, does it seem like the UAE is not the center of Iran's latest wave of attacks? First, it's not accurate to say that it hasn't been attacked throughout the war. The UAE has been hit and threatened several times in previous months. In the current waves, reports are more focused on Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Jordan. Iran has not given an official explanation, but it may be a tactical decision to avoid opening all Gulf fronts at the same time. The UAE has repeatedly stated that it will not allow its territory to be used for attacks on Iran. However, that position is not a guarantee that it will remain safe, and that is the most dangerous point of this war. As Iran retaliates against the Gulf countries, the United States sees even more reasons to expand its operations. Instead of being forced to stop, Washington might use the attacks on Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and Jordan as proof that the current bombing is not enough. For military planners, the next question is no longer just whether they will attack again, but how deep into Iran and how sensitive the next targets will be. According to reports, new military options for a broader offensive have already been presented to President Trump, including heavier strikes against strategic infrastructure, targeting air defense systems, command centers, and underground facilities. One of the most sensitive possibilities is striking nuclear-related sites and a suspected underground facility that are difficult to reach with ordinary bombs. No final decision has been publicly announced yet, but it's clear that simply continuing the same operations is not what's being discussed. There are options that could take the conflict to a new level. What's even more concerning is that America is bringing additional aerial refueling aircraft and weapons to its fleets. Now, this deployment is just a preparation, not an automatic confirmation that there is a final order for Israel to attack or to conduct a joint U.S.-Israeli operation. However, it's important to remember that Israel has long been eager to end Iran's leadership, and their defense minister said last week that whenever needed, they are ready to join strikes on Iran. Israel's participation is likely, but still depends on some factors. I can't determine if this is an opportunity to destroy Iran's remaining nuclear and missile capabilities, while its air defenses are already weak. For Israel, the Iranian nuclear program and long-range missiles are not just America's problem. It considers this a direct threat to its own security. However, if Israel joins the conflict on a large scale again, the fighting might not remain confined to Iran and the Gulf. Armed groups connected to Iran in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen could possibly move and open multiple fronts at the same time. There is an even more dangerous option. The U.S. military has previously studied the possibility of deploying forces on the Iranian coastline to control the Strait of Hormuz, as well as an operation on Karg Island, which is a hub for a large share of Iran's oil exports. However, the risks are extremely high. Any landing of American soldiers on Iranian territory could shift the war from an air campaign to a direct ground confrontation. And as the operation grows, the impact on civilians will also increase. Oil and food prices will rise again, flights will be canceled, there will be shortages of water and medicine, and millions of migrant workers in the Gulf region, including Filipinos, will be at risk. So before heavier attacks come, the last question needs to be answered. Is there still a way back to a peace deal? Or have both sides completely closed the doors to diplomacy? The answer is yes, but the window is very small and closing fast. The previous agreement did not collapse because of just one missile. It was gradually destroyed by different interpretations in the Strait of Hormuz. Attacks on ships, the return of U.S. sanctions and blockades, and the subsequent bombings and retaliation. Trump has already said that the previous ceasefire is over, although Washington still agreed to continue the talks. This means the old agreement is dead. But diplomacy is not completely dead yet. The biggest obstacle is Hormuz. America wants all shipping lanes to remain open. No tolls and no ships will be threatened or blocked by Iran. Iran, on the other hand, insists that it has the right to control traffic in the part of the strait that is under Iranian territory. Until there is a clear agreement on who will guard, which route will be used, and how violators will be dealt with, any ceasefire could easily be broken by the first drone that hits a tanker. But it's not just Hormuz that needs to be addressed. In the previous agreement, Iran agreed to reduce its stockpile of highly enriched uranium, while America agreed to sanctions relief and the return of Iran's legal oil exports. Now, the system needs to be made stricter. There should be internal inspections, a clear timetable for nuclear restrictions, and automatic sanctions relief only when it is proven that Iran is complying. Promises from Iran alone are not enough. But Iran also can't be expected to comply while it is continuously being bombed, and then Washington doesn't deliver the promised economic relief. So who needs to back down first? Honestly, neither side can move first on its own. The moves need to be simultaneous. Iran will stop missile and drone attacks on Gulf states and attacks on commercial shipping. At the same time, America will stop the airstrikes and temporarily halt the naval blockade. On the other hand, what is the real end game? For America, based on the official explanation from CENTCOM, the immediate goal is to remove Iran's ability to attack international shipping and to weaken its radar, missiles, command networks, and maritime forces. But as the target list expands, it's possible that Washington wants something bigger, an Iran with weakened missile and nuclear capabilities. It won't be able to control Hormuz and will be forced to return to the negotiating table under much harsher terms. There is still no clear official declaration that regime change is the goal. But if America tries to seize the Iranian islands or send ground forces, that would be a step toward a longer and more dangerous war. So this is the concrete conclusion. A peace deal is still possible, but it will only happen if both U.S. strikes and Iranian attacks stop at the same time. The Strait of Hormuz will be opened without threats, and Iran will agree to verified nuclear limits in exchange for real, genuine sanctions relief. If America insists on the total surrender of Iran, Iran will fight to its last ounce of strength. If Iran insists on controlling the Strait of Hormuz while bombing its neighbors, America will not stop, and there is a possibility that Israel will join in. So in short, no one wins from an agreement built on humiliating one side. And if there is no simultaneous withdrawal now, the next stage will not just be a simple exchange of missiles, but a much wider war that will not only affect the entire Middle East. The whole world, including the Philippines, will pay the price or at least get dragged into it. If you like this video, please share it with others and subscribe as well. Also, watch the videos on the right so you can spend even more of your time. If you like this video, please share it with others and subscribe as well. Also, watch the videos on the right so you can waste even more time.